The first thing I felt was a gentle light touching my eyelids. Then, the strange sensation that my body didn't belong to me, as if I were a visitor in my own skin. I tried to open my eyes, but they felt heavy as lead. Then I heard a voice. Masculine, soft, filled with relief. "Come on, Lily. I know you're in there. It's been long enough." Something inside me stirred at that voice. It was familiar in an impossible way, like a song you know but can't remember where you heard it. With an effort that felt like moving mountains, I managed to crack my eyes open. The first face I saw was his. Dark hair slightly tousled, deep brown eyes surrounded by small tired lines, and an expression of concern that instantly transformed into something I can only describe as pure joy. "Welcome back, Lily." The way he said my name made my heart, which had apparently forgotten how to beat normally, race. There was an intimacy there, a familiarity that didn't make sense. I didn't know him, did I? I tried to speak, but my throat was dry as paper. He immediately picked up a glass of water and helped me drink, his hands firm and gentle as they supported my head. Slowly, he murmured, You've been sleeping for a while." Sleeping. The word echoed strangely in my mind. There was something wrong with that description, but I couldn't identify what. That's when the door burst open and a nurse rushed in, her face red with urgency. "Dr. Santos, your fiancé is calling. She said the wedding is in 4 hours and you promised you'd be there." The world stopped. Dr. Santos, Gabriel, my mind whispered from somewhere deep, went pale. His eyes met mine for a second, loaded with something that looked like guilt? Regret? I need to take this," he said, his voice suddenly formal. "Lily, you're safe. Nurse Sarah will take care of you." And then he left, leaving me with a feeling of abandonment so intense it made me question whether I was still dreaming. Or worse, if I was having a nightmare. 8 months, said Sarah, the head nurse, while checking my vital signs. She was a woman of about 50, with graying hair pulled back in a practical bun and kind eyes that seemed to have seen everything. "You've been in a coma for 8 months, dear." 8 months. The information should have shocked me, but strangely it didn't. It was as if part of me already knew. "The accident was severe," Sarah continued, adjusting my pillows. "Traumatic brain injury, internal hemorrhaging. There were moments when we didn't think you would." She stopped, studying my expression. "But you fought, especially in recent months. It was as if something was pulling you back." "Sarah," I said, my voice still hoarse. "That doctor?" "Dr. Santos." "Gabriel," she said, and there was something in her tone that made me pay attention. "What do you want to know about him?" "I feel like I know him. It's strange." Sarah sat in the chair beside my bed, her hands clasped in her lap. "In 20 years working at this hospital, I've seen many inexplicable things. But what happened between you and Dr. Santos? Well, that was unique." "What do you mean?" "Lily, you talked during the coma." I felt a chill run up my spine. "Talked. Not constantly, but when Dr. Santos was here. You had entire conversations with him. Not clear words, but sounds, expressions. You smiled when he entered the room. You frowned when he seemed worried." Sarah leaned forward, lowering her voice. "Once, he arrived clearly upset. He had fought with his fiancée. You started making small comforting sounds, as if you were trying to console him. He noticed and said, 'Thank you, Lily.' And I swear you smiled." My heart was racing. Is that possible? Medically? Doctors would say they were just involuntary reflexes. But I've worked here for 2 decades, dear. I know the difference between reflexes and connection. Later that day, when I thought I was alone, I heard voices from outside my room. I immediately recognized Gabriel's voice, heavy with anguish. "Sarah, I know it's crazy. Dr. Santos, you need to go to your wedding." How can I marry Amanda knowing that? Knowing what? There was a long pause. I silently pulled myself closer to the door, my heart beating hard. I feel like she heard me, that we created a real connection. "I've canceled the wedding 3 times because of her, Sarah. Amanda said it's today or never." "Gabriel," Sarah's voice was gentle, "you're a good doctor. You care about your patients." "It's not that. The frustration in his voice was palpable. "I fell in love with her, Sarah. With a woman in a coma. How is that possible? How do you fall in love with someone who doesn't even know you exist?" The silence that followed was heavy with weight. "But she did know," Sarah said finally. "She always knew when you were here." I leaned against the wall, trying to process what I had heard. Gabriel was in love with me? How was that possible? I had spent 8 months unconscious, but still, I felt something for him too. Something deep and inexplicable that defied all logic. In the following hours, while Gabriel supposedly prepared for his wedding, the nurses began telling me things that turned my world upside down. "He brought fresh flowers every week," said Maria, a young nurse with dreamy eyes. "Always white daisies. He said they were your favorites, though he didn't know why." Daisies were indeed my favorites. How did he know? "And the music," added another nurse, Linda. "He played classical music for you. Debussy, mainly. You always became calmer when he did that." Debussy, my favorite composer, something I had never mentioned to anyone at the hospital because I was in a coma. "There was that time when you almost died," Maria continued, lowering her voice. "In the 4th month, your vitals were unstable, and the doctors didn't know if you'd make it through the night. Dr. Santos stayed here for 72 hours straight. He didn't even leave to eat. He held your hand and talked to you," Linda added. "He told stories about his childhood, about books he was reading. Once I heard him say he was afraid to marry Amanda because he didn't love her the way she deserved. Each revelation was like a puzzle piece fitting into a place I didn't even know existed in me." "Girls," I said finally, "can you show me the security footage from that night? When I almost died." Maria and Linda exchanged glances. "Well, technically we can't, but..." Maria smiled conspiratorially. "I'll see what I can do." An hour later, I was looking at a small screen on a tablet that Maria had borrowed from the nursing station. The recording was in black and white, with a timestamp showing 3:47 a.m. from 4 months ago. On the screen, I could see my body connected to various machines and Gabriel sitting beside my bed. He held my hand with both of his, and although there was no audio, I could read his lips. "Don't leave me, Lily. I need you to wake up. I need to really get to know you." And then something incredible happened in the recording. My hand, apparently unconscious, squeezed his back. Gabriel looked up, staring directly at my face, and I could see the tears in his eyes. He brought my hand to his lips and kissed it gently. In the recording, a small smile appeared on my unconscious face. I was crying when the video ended. Maria was crying too. "Is this real?" I asked. "I was on duty that night," she said. "I saw it happen. Dr. Santos doesn't know we recorded this." At that moment, the door opened and a woman entered. She was small, Asian, incredibly elegant in an expensive beige dress. Her hair was perfectly arranged, and she carried a bouquet of white lilies. "You must be Lily," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm Amanda Chen, Gabriel's fiancée." Amanda was beautiful in a clinical way, perfect. Everything about her screamed success and control, from her upright posture to the way she spoke, measured and precise. "I brought flowers," she said, placing the lilies in a vase beside my bed. "Gabriel said you like daisies, but lilies are more appropriate for hospitals." There was something in her tone that made me feel like she was marking territory. "That's very kind of you," I managed to say. Amanda sat in the chair that Gabriel had occupied, crossing her legs elegantly. "You know, Lily, Gabriel almost canceled our wedding several times because of you." I felt my stomach contract. "I'm sorry, I don't understand. He said he fell in love with someone, but you were in a coma." Amanda tilted her head, studying me. "It's impossible to fall in love with someone unconscious, isn't it?" There was something predatory in the way she asked the question, as if she already knew the answer and was testing me. I wouldn't know." Amanda smiled, and this time there was something genuinely cruel in that smile. "Of course you would know, because you were in love too, weren't you?" I remained silent, but apparently my expression said everything. "I thought so," Amanda continued. "Well, I'm here to clarify some things. Gabriel is a good man, but confused. He confuses professional compassion with love. It's common among doctors. She leaned forward. But I've known Gabriel for 5 years. We have a life built together. A career, plans, future. You have what? Imaginary conversations during a coma? Each word was like a needle prick, but there was something in the subtext that made me suspect Amanda was more desperate than she let on. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Amanda stood up, smoothing her dress. Because, dear Lily, I scheduled my wedding for today purposely. The doctors told me yesterday that you would wake up this week. I wanted to make sure Gabriel made his choice before complications arose. I felt my blood freeze. You knew I was going to wake up? I'm a doctor too, Lily. Pediatrician. I know how to read neurological exams. Your brain functions had been improving for weeks. Amanda picked up her purse. Gabriel made his choice. He's preparing for our wedding right now. And then she left, leaving me with a feeling that I had just been hit by a train. Sarah entered my room late at night, carrying something in her hands. Lily, there's something you need to see. It was a brown leather notebook, the pages yellowed from use. Gabriel left this here. I think he wanted you to find it. I opened the notebook with trembling hands. The first page was dated 3 days after my accident. Day 3. The patient in room 237 arrived today. Lily Parker, 27 years old, severe traumatic brain injury. I don't know why I feel responsible for her, but there's something. I turned the pages, reading entry after entry. Gabriel had documented every visit, every small change in my condition, every moment of connection he had felt. Day 45. I played Claire de Lune today, and I swear she smiled. The other doctors say they're just muscle spasms, but I know they're not. She hears. She feels. Day 78. Amanda is impatient with my visits here. She said I'm getting too emotionally involved. Maybe she's right, but how do you stop caring about someone who has become part of your daily life? Day 123. Almost lost her today. When her vitals started failing, I felt like my own heart was stopping. I spent hours holding her hand, begging her to fight. And she fought. She always fights. The entries continued, each one revealing a man falling deeper in love with someone who couldn't love him back. At least, not in the conventional way. Then I reached the last entry, dated yesterday. Day 243, Lily's neurological signs show she will wake up soon. Amanda is pressing for us to schedule the wedding immediately. Maybe it's better this way. If Lily wakes up and I don't really know her, I can move on. If she wakes up and discovers that I spent 8 months falling in love with her without her knowing, what will she think of me? I've made a decision. If she wakes up before the wedding, I'll cancel everything and confess my feelings. If she doesn't wake up until tomorrow, I'll marry Amanda and never return to this room. Lily, if you ever read this, know that you taught me that love can exist without permission, without logic, without any of the rules we think govern the heart. You taught me that loving someone isn't about what you can get in return, but about what you're willing to give. I closed the notebook, tears streaming down my face. Gabriel loved me. Truly, deeply loved me. And in a few hours, he would marry someone else because he thought I didn't know that I wouldn't reciprocate. But there was a problem. I remembered one more thing, a memory that had remained buried until that moment. Before the accident, I was driving somewhere. But where? The memories came back like an avalanche. I was in a wedding dress. I was running away from my own wedding. Marcus Hale, my fiancé, a successful businessman, respected, everything my family wanted for me, but also controlling, manipulative, someone who saw our relationship as a corporate merger instead of a union of love. On the morning of the wedding, I had realized I couldn't spend the rest of my life with someone who didn't love me for who I was, but for what I represented in his plans. So I took the car and ran. I was driving to the airport when the accident happened. Gabriel hadn't just saved me from death. He had saved me from an unhappy life without even knowing it, and now he was about to make the same mistake I almost made. I looked at the clock on the wall. 2:30 p.m. If Amanda was right, the wedding was at 6 p.m. I had 3.5 hours to stop Gabriel from marrying someone he didn't love. Sarah, I called, and when she appeared, there was determination in my voice that surprised even myself. I need to get out of here. Lily, you just woke up from a coma. You can't. Sarah, you said you've worked here for 20 years. Have you seen true love? She hesitated. A few times. Then you know it doesn't happen often. And when it does, it's worth fighting for. Sarah studied me for a long moment. Then, a slow smile spread across her face. Maria, Linda, come here, she shouted. 15 minutes later, I was in a wheelchair in the back of a taxi, still wearing hospital clothes, but with an iron determination burning in my chest. Sacred Heart Church, I told the driver. And please, it's an emergency. During the journey, more memories from the coma returned. Not the conscious memories I had recovered before, but something deeper. The sensation of a constant presence, of not being alone even in the deepest darkness. I remembered moments of panic during the coma, when my mind struggled to return to the surface, and how a familiar voice always calmed me. Don't hurry, Lily. Come back when you're ready. I'll be here. I remembered the music he played, not just Debussy, but Chopin, Bach, Vivaldi, and how each note seemed to be a rope pulling me back to life. And I remember the night I almost died, how I had felt that presence intensify, as if someone was literally holding me and refusing to let me go. Gabriel had fought for my life for 8 months. Now it was my turn to fight for our life together. Sacred Heart Church was an impressive Gothic building in the center of the city. When we arrived, I could see elegantly dressed guests climbing the marble steps. Wait here, I told the driver. I'll be back in 5 minutes, or maybe never. With the help of the wheelchair, I managed to reach the large wooden doors of the church. Through the colored glass, I could see the ceremony already in progress. Amanda looked beautiful in a wedding dress that probably cost more than a nurse's annual salary. Gabriel stood beside her at the altar, impeccable in his tuxedo, but even from a distance, I could see the tension in his shoulders. The priest was talking about matrimony, about commitment, and eternal love. The words echoed through the church like accusations. Then I heard the question that made my heart stop. Gabriel Santos, do you take Amanda Chen as your lawful wife, to love and respect her, in joy and sorrow, in sickness and in health, until death do you part? Gabriel hesitated. For a second that seemed to last an eternity, he simply stood there, looking at Amanda. That's when I pushed open the church doors. The sound of the heavy doors opening echoed through the church like thunder. All the guests turned, 100 pairs of eyes staring at me. I heard whispers, muffled exclamations, the creaking of wooden pews as people turned to get a better look. But I only had eyes for Gabriel. When our gazes met, the expression on his face went through a complete transformation. Surprise, confusion, and then relief. Pure and undeniable relief. Lily, he said, his voice carrying through the silent church. Amanda turned too, and the fury in her eyes could have melted glass. I knew this was going to happen, she muttered through gritted teeth. I started pushing the wheelchair down the center aisle. Each wheel that turned echoed like a heartbeat. The guests watched me as if I were an apparition. Gabriel, I said when I got close enough for him to hear me clearly. I need to talk to you. Lily, you can't be here, Amanda interrupted, stepping down from the altar. This is my wedding ceremony. Actually, I said, keeping my eyes fixed on Gabriel. I think this ceremony is about choices. And Gabriel deserves to make his with all the available information. Gabriel stepped down from the altar too, ignoring Amanda, ignoring the shocked priest, ignoring the murmurs of the guests. He knelt beside my wheelchair. How did you know where to find me? He asked. I read your diary, I said. And I remembered some things. What things? I remember your voice telling me stories. I remember your hands holding mine during storms. I remember the music you played. I paused, gathering courage. And I remember falling in love with you, Gabriel. Even in a coma, even without knowing who you were, my soul recognized yours. Total silence descended over the church. Gabriel looked at me as if I were a miracle. "That's impossible," Amanda said, but her voice had lost some of its previous confidence. "Is it impossible?" I asked, finally looking at her. "Or is it just inconvenient for your plans?" Amanda laughed, but it was a bitter, desperate laugh. "Enough. Gabriel, do you want to throw away 5 years of relationship for a fantasy?" She was in a coma. Gabriel stood up, still looking at me, but directing his words to Amanda. "You knew she was going to wake up today. That's why you scheduled the wedding." "So, what if I did?" Amanda exploded, her mask of control finally falling. "Did you think I was going to let a coma patient destroy my future? Our future?" There was a shocked murmur from the guests. Gabriel turned to Amanda, incredulity in his eyes. "You read my diary? I read all your notes about her. All your pathetic doubts about our relationship. All your romantic ramblings about an unconscious woman." Amanda was pacing back and forth now, like a caged beast. "You want to know the truth, Gabriel? I read your medical reports. I knew she would wake up this week. I scheduled our wedding specifically for today to force you to choose before she could interfere." The church was in absolute silence now. Even the priest looked shocked. "You can have his heart," Amanda continued, pointing at me, "but I have his legal commitment. We sent invitations, paid deposits, made promises to our families." "Amanda," Gabriel interrupted, his voice strangely calm. "Stop. No. You can't just. Stop." Gabriel walked to Amanda and gently took her hands. "Amanda, you're an incredible woman. Intelligent, dedicated, beautiful. You deserve to be loved completely, without reservations, without doubts." Amanda started crying, makeup running. "But I can't give you that," Gabriel continued, "because my heart belongs to someone else. And if I married you now, I would be betraying us both." Gabriel took the ring off his finger and gently placed it in Amanda's hand. "I'm sorry, more than you can imagine, but I can't marry you when I love someone else." Amanda stood for a moment, holding the ring, tears streaming down her face. Then, with a dignity I didn't expect, she nodded. "You're right," she said quietly. "I deserve to be loved completely. And you deserve to love without reservations." She turned to me. "Take care of him, Lily. He's one of the good ones." And then Amanda left the church, leaving a trail of murmurs and confusion. Gabriel turned to me, and there was so much love in his eyes it made me tremble. "Lily, are you sure? This isn't gratitude or confusion because of the coma?" I smiled, feeling my heart expand until it seemed like it would explode in my chest. "Gabriel, for 8 months you kept me connected to life through love. You talked to me, played music for me, held my hand. You gave me a reason to fight and come back." I paused, carefully choosing my next words. "And before the accident, I was running away from my own wedding. I was running away from a man who didn't truly love me. The universe gave me a second chance, Gabriel. It gave us a second chance." Gabriel knelt again beside my chair. "I love you, Lily Parker. I've loved you since the first day I saw you. And if you'll let me, I want to spend the rest of my life loving you consciously." "Yes," I whispered. "Yes to everything." And then he kissed me right there, in front of a church full of shocked guests, with the priest still holding his prayer book, with wedding flowers scattered on the floor. It was the most perfect kiss of my life, because it was the first kiss I gave while being completely conscious of loving someone who loved me back. We're sitting in the hospital garden where it all began. It's been a year since I woke up from the coma, and I'm completely recovered. Gabriel and I are dating slowly, building a relationship based on real conversations, shared experiences, mutual knowledge. Do you ever wonder if what we felt during the coma was real? Gabriel asks, his hands intertwined with mine, as we watch the daisies he planted especially for me in the hospital garden. I was unconscious to the world. I reply, but not to you. My soul recognized you before my eyes even opened. Gabriel smiles, but there's still a shadow of doubt in his eyes. Sometimes I wonder if it wasn't just projection on my part. I wanted so much for you to hear me. I release his hands and take something from my purse. It's a small digital recorder that Sarah gave me last week. The nurses recorded this during my coma, I say, my fingers trembling slightly as I press play. I wanted to be sure before showing you. The recording starts with background hospital noises, machine beeps, distant footsteps. Then we hear Gabriel's voice. Lily, today was a difficult day. I lost a patient, an 8-year-old child. I can't stop thinking about her family. And then, clear as crystal, my voice responds. Gabriel, I'm sorry. In the recording, there's shocked silence, then Gabriel whispering, Lily, can you hear me? And again, my unconscious voice. Always. I always hear you. There's more in the recording, fragments of impossible conversations. My voice whispering, don't marry her, wait for me, and Gabriel asking, how do you know about Amanda? Followed by my almost inaudible whisper, because you're mine. Gabriel is looking at the recorder as if it were an alien. How is this possible, he whispers. I don't know. I reply honestly. But it's real. We are real. Gabriel stands up abruptly and walks a few steps, running his hands through his hair. Lily, do you understand what this means? Medically, this should be impossible. Coma patients don't maintain conscious conversations. Gabriel, I interrupt gently. You're doing what you've done throughout our entire relationship, trying to scientifically explain something that transcends science. He turns to me, conflict in his eyes. But what if I influenced you somehow? What if your responses were just echoes of what I wanted to hear? I get up from the garden chair and walk to him. I'm completely physically recovered, but sometimes I still feel emotionally fragile when Gabriel questions the reality of what we feel. Then explain how I knew about Debussy being my favorite composer before you played it for me. Explain how I knew you were afraid to marry Amanda before you told me. Explain how I was trying to console you when you arrived upset. Gabriel looks at me, and I can see the internal struggle in his eyes. Explain. I continue. How my heart stopped racing the first time I heard your voice, if it was just medical conditioning. Explain how I fell in love with you before I even knew your name. Lily. Gabriel, some things don't need scientific explanation. Some things simply are. He pulls me into his arms, and I can feel the tension leaving his body. I love you, he murmurs against my hair. Conscious, unconscious, it doesn't matter. I love you in any state of consciousness. And I love you too, I reply. And this time, you can be sure I'm awake to say it. It's the 1-year anniversary since I woke up from the coma. Gabriel asked me to meet him at the hospital, in the room where I spent 8 months of my life. I agreed, although the place still causes me conflicted feelings. When I arrive at room 237, I find Sarah, Maria, Linda, and several other nurses waiting with conspiratorial smiles. The room has been decorated with white daisies, hundreds of them. What's happening? I ask, but before anyone can answer, Gabriel enters. He's wearing the same lab coat he wore the day I woke up, but this time there's something different in his eyes. Determination. Certainty. Pure and undeniable love. Lily, he says, walking to where I'm standing beside the bed where I spent so much time unconscious. This room is where our story began. It was here that I fell in love with you, where you fought to come back to me, where we discovered that love can exist in forms that medicine doesn't yet understand. He kneels beside the bed, exactly in the same place where he used to sit during my difficult nights in the coma. It was here that I learned that loving someone isn't about perfect circumstances or right timing. It's about recognizing your soulmate, even when she's sleeping. My heart is beating so hard I'm sure everyone in the room can hear it. Gabriel takes a small velvet box from his lab coat pocket. Lily Parker, you taught me that true love doesn't need permission from logic to exist. You showed me that two souls can connect beyond consciousness, beyond time, beyond any obstacle the world puts between them. He opens the box, revealing a simple but beautiful ring, a solitaire emerald surrounded by small diamonds. Will you marry me? Will you build a conscious life together, based on the love we discovered when you didn't even know you were in love? Tears are streaming down my face, but this time they're tears of pure joy. Yes, I whisper. Yes, 1,000 times yes. When Gabriel puts the ring on my finger, Sarah starts crying. In 30 years of profession, she says, I've never seen love conquer death, time, and circumstances. You made me believe in miracles. Gabriel stands up and kisses me, and it's as if the circle has finally closed. The room where our impossible story began now witnesses our commitment to a future together. I'm standing in front of the mirror in the room that was once my hospital room, but is now used for storage. Gabriel and I decided to get married here, at the hospital where it all began, surrounded by the people who cared for us during the most difficult moments. My wedding dress is simple but beautiful, nothing like the extravagant dress I wore to the wedding I ran away from years ago. This dress represents who I really am, not who others expected me to be. Sarah enters the room, beautiful in her navy blue dress. Ready, dear? More than ready, I reply. We walk together down the hospital corridor to the garden where Gabriel planted the daisies. That's where we decided to have our ceremony. Outdoors, simple, surrounded by nature and the people we love. Gabriel is waiting for me beside the flowers, handsome in his gray suit. There's no priest. Sarah got ordained online especially to marry us. There's no crowd of guests, just the nurses who helped us, some doctor colleagues of Gabriel's and my parents, who finally understood that I chose true love over social convenience. When Gabriel sees me walking toward him, his smile lights up the entire garden. You look beautiful, he whispers when I reach his side. You too, I reply, adjusting his tie. Ready for a lifetime of conscious love. More than ready. Sarah clears her throat and begins the ceremony. We are gathered here today to celebrate not just the union of Gabriel and Lily, but the triumph of love over impossible circumstances. This is not an ordinary love story. It's proof that some connections are so strong they transcend consciousness itself. She looks at Gabriel. Gabriel, your vows. Gabriel takes my hands and looks directly into my eyes. Lily, you taught me that true love doesn't follow rules. That two people can fall in love even when one of them is sleeping. That the heart recognizes its soulmate before the mind even processes that information. His voice is thick with emotion. I promise to love you in all states of consciousness. I promise to be by your side during your dreams and nightmares. I promise never to doubt the extraordinary connection we share. And I promise to spend each conscious day falling even more in love with you. Now it's my turn. Gabriel, you saved me twice. First, from physical death. Then, from a life without true love. You showed me that loving someone is about being present, about giving of yourself without expecting anything in return. Tears are streaming down my face, but my voice remains steady. I promise never to take our story for granted. I promise to remember every day that our love was a miracle that few are lucky enough to experience. I promise to be conscious in every moment of our life together. And I promise to love you with the same intensity that my unconscious soul loved you during those 8 months. Sarah is crying too when she declares, please exchange rings. Gabriel places the ring on my finger, and this time there's no drama, no interruptions, no one running to stop our ceremony. It's perfect in its simplicity. When I place the ring on Gabriel's finger, he whispers, forever conscious. Forever conscious, I repeat. With the power vested in me, Sarah says with a radiant smile, I pronounce you husband and wife. Gabriel, you may kiss your wife. And when Gabriel kisses me as a husband for the first time, I feel our story has finally found its perfect ending. Not an ending, actually, but a new beginning. Later that night, Gabriel and I are lying in the bed of our new apartment, my head on his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heart. Lily, he whispers in the dark. Thank you for waking up. I smile against his chest. Thank you for giving me a reason to wake up. And as we fall asleep together, consciously together, I know that our story is proof that true love can overcome anything. Even unconsciousness. Even time. Even impossible circumstances. Sometimes love finds us in the most impossible moments. I discovered that the heart can love even when the mind is sleeping, and Gabriel learned that some connections transcend consciousness. True love doesn't need permission from logic to exist. It simply is. And we simply are.